The South African Property Owners Association is raising concerns on municipalities for increasing property taxes above National Treasury guidelines. SAPOA also says these increases are a threat to the viability of commercial property tenants who form the bulk of ratepayers in most of the concerned municipalities. For more on this, we're joined by SAPOA CEO Neil Gopal. Neil, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. SAPOA recently commissioned Oxford Economics to produce a comprehensive economic report on the impact of property rates in South Africa, particularly looking at the property rates over the years in the 5 biggest metros in the country. And you've not only found that on average the taxes increased by 10% above inflation, but these increases are detrimentally affecting the local economy of each municipality as well as the national economy. Let's talk more about your findings and your concerns.
Thank you, Xolani. I appreciate you inviting me to talk about this very important matter. So yes, we appointed Oxford Economics in June last year, and they tabled a report to us about 2 months ago. We did a quick review of it, and there were substantial changes that we needed to dig a little bit deeper. But this view is not only shared by SAPOA of the commercial property industry. It was shared by the Governor of the Reserve Bank 2 weeks ago, who also cautioned against municipalities raising property rates way above CPI.
Neil, let's talk about what the National Treasury guidelines actually say about what municipalities can do when considering changing or increasing property taxes in South Africa.
Well, the key word there, Xolani, is guideline. It is simply just a guideline. It's not legally enforceable. The guidelines do state that if a municipality is going to be increasing its property rates above CPI, it has to justify or motivate, rather, these increases above CPI to National Treasury. Now, I guess a guideline, we can always ignore it because, as I say, it's not legally enforceable. And then there's also fundamentally a separation of duties, responsibilities in terms of the South African Constitution. Very seldom can national government intervene within a municipality on issues of this nature.
As far as you're concerned, what's behind these massive increases in property taxes across South African municipalities, and how do the increases compare to the other municipal revenue streams?
Well, according to the research, we dug into Stats SA data, and what we found is that the grants and subsidies from national government, which remains as the main source of aggregate municipal income, is falling and has been falling over the last number of years. And what municipalities are doing in order to subsidize these shortfalls, they are increasing property rates, thereby filling a hole. But they've also had a shortfall in, I guess, the sale of electricity, given the load shedding crisis. And so, again, when we come back to the numbers, we drill down a bit deeper. We're finding that property rates are playing an increasingly fundamental and important role in supporting municipal revenue. Property rates income, for example, has risen a substantial 174% between 2010 and 2021, when CPI over that same period was only 72%. So almost more than double CPI, which is basically used as a means to cover those shortfalls in revenue streams.
Neil, you've also said excessive increases in property taxes add upward pressure on the general price level and will have more wide-ranging adverse consequences for the property sector. Give us examples of these ramifications for the sector.
Well, essentially what we're finding, and we've all driven through towns and cities, and there's a significant deterioration of the quality of services from municipalities. That's a given. And so effectively what happens is, in order to secure that asset, whether it's a shopping center, a large, small, or an office park, property owners are now assuming the role of municipalities. They've got to clean the pavements, maintain it, They've got to ensure that there's adequate security. Obviously, then there's a water situation, so you've got to get your own water tanks. And, one doesn't need to really harp on about the load shedding and electricity crisis. So all of these responsibilities, which in terms of the South African Constitution vests and should vest as a responsibility in the lap of the municipality, is now been assumed by the landlord that owns these buildings. And there's only so much of these costs that you can recover from your tenants, particularly in a weakening economy. There's load shedding disruptions. And so the overall impact is that both landlords and tenants are under extreme amount of strain. And this essentially is going to, and it is leading to business failures, higher vacancies, and decreased investments in the real estate sector.
And in your view, what should be the ideal process to determine property taxes, and which body or department should be taking this head on to prevent such hefty increases?
Well, I think the Department of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs is responsible or has jurisdiction over the Municipal Property Rates Act. And our argument is that we feel at the outset that the major challenge lies with the valuations boards, which we don't believe are independent and often are represented by not very highly qualified people to deal with municipal appeals on valuations. These appeal processes can take many, many years to conclude. I think what we would like to see is, and we feel that there should be some need for an independent NERSA-like electricity, a NERSA-like body that regulates electricity, and one that could regulate the increase in property rates.
And if not addressed immediately, Neil, could these high increases see landlords and other investors in the property space limiting their investment in South Africa in the near future? And what other, implications does it have in terms of the property sector in South Africa? Could we see them, the investors, opting to go to other markets offshore rather than put their money in the property space in the country?
Xolani, we already seen this happen. It's been happening for a number of years, but it is escalating, and it is a concern. Investors are increasingly asking what is the value proposition to invest in South Africa versus another country. And we're in an environment where, like every other country, we are competing for international foreign direct investment. It is quite obvious that, and we've seen in most other countries, the strategy employed by those governments are to reduce taxes, thereby attracting investments. We're going in the other direction by increasing taxes. So this is a major concern for us. And then capital is mobile. You can take your money offshore and invest in shopping centers and real estate in other countries, which has been happening quite significantly on an annual basis.
Neil Gopal is the CEO at the South African Property Owners Association. Thank you very much, sir, for your time.